For joining us today. My name is Hira Dangol. I'm part of the LISA, Lead Incubator and Startup Accelerator. LISA was founded by Stanford GSB LEAD participants for the LEAD community. It's the hybrid platform for incubating ideas to MVP and then scaling ventures globally. So LISA has completed the first cohort last year, and this year we're actually on the second cohort. Our cohort started mid-January. We're actually 2 months away from ending out this program. So as a part of our this program, we have over 20 plus ideas are currently in incubation phase in 16 different categories, and going through this phenomenal journey of this design session led by Silicon Valley Design Thinking Club and this world-class Embark platform offered by Stanford faculty. And then we have more like week over week, other kind of activities, things like, Podium X series, one-on-one session we're doing through these weekly check-ins and other kind of the activities happening throughout the past weeks. So our participants mostly, I think, the cohort participants who are actually on this program are actually towards the end of the building the prototype phase. That's where I think we're thinking the need of the additional kind of the resources or the learning process. So as a part of that, we thought the financial model could be one of the critical components for our founders who are needing to understand the financial statements that could potentially be presented to the investor at some point. So what happened was last year, out of this financial innovation course, after we completed that quarter, I just went out to our workplace and then posted if there's any kind of the interest out there in our participants or communities like to work on this financial model. And I got this interesting feedback from our community of the leaders. And then we got into this, got together with a group of 14 leaders who showed us an interest to get started working on this model. So we're actually dividing this workshop into two sessions. The first session would be, it's more like overview session conducted by Choudary, who will be spending next first half, and then second half would be more like a hands-on experience for our participants. So we will be selecting one of our founders from the audience to be the validator for this hands-on experience to walk you through the process. And at the same time, all the participants can take similar kind of the working session while we complete that one. So with that, I think I will hand this over to Choudary, who will be running the overview session. Go ahead, Choudary.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. My name is Choudary, and thank you for the introduction here. So myself and Umesh, as you can see, he's one of the participants, along with Hira and Sandeep and Martinez. We worked on this for 2 months to come up with this product. And so we took most of our, all right, so we developed this product with most of the basic ideas from the financial innovation course. And obviously, due to lack of time, the course does not cover everything that is needed. We are going to add all of those features into the product, hopefully down the line. All right, Hira, you want to move on to the next slide? Okay, so why are we building this model? So most founders, they have a brilliant idea and they're very passionate about a certain idea, but they do not have a finance background. And but when you do go for funding, at some point you will, and finances are everything that the VCs will want to look into before they fund. So this model the goal of this model is to make it very intuitive and very easy to understand for founders. You do not need to even have Excel skill set in order to use this tool. So all you have to do is answer a set of questions about your company. And as you answer those questions, on the background, the financial model automatically gets built. And at the end of the session, you will have a completely built out financial model for 5 years or 10 years, depending on what you select. And you can download that Excel sheet. And most of the inputs you give will be variables on the Excel sheet that you can change later on. And as you change those variables, the rest of the Excel sheet, the rest of the financial statement will automatically change as well. So this model is also going to save founders a lot of valuable time, because as a founder, you want to spend most of your time building your idea and not worry about the finances. So this model will kind of be a tool for you on the background and let you do the thing that you're passionate about. So the model is going to consist of basically a cap table, income statement, a free cash flow statement, and eventually, if your company has positive revenues and has grown to a certain size, we can also do the DCF model. So these are the four basic components that you will get out of the model. Now, some of you may have already done the course on financial innovation, and some of you may just be getting started. So we will go through some of the basics, but not in detail. And hopefully you guys will have questions at the end of it. So the significance of the right financial model. So right from the get-go, what this model does is it gives the founders a clear picture of who owns what in the company. Obviously, in the very initial days, if it's just one founder, that founder owns 100%. And let's say you're 4 founders, you own 25% each. But as the company progresses and grows, it starts to get complicated, because you're going to go for funding, and then you're going to have investors. And investors come in different forms, and they can also ask for different kinds of equity. So what we will go through today will be exactly what you see in the financial innovation course, which is investors coming and asking for equity share. So in other words, they ask for certain shares in your company in return for the funds they give you. But in reality, most funding involves a lot more than just equity funding. The most commonly used right now is convertible notes. And the Y Combinator guys have come up with a tool called SAFE, S-A-F-E. And then the 500 startup company, they came up with a tool called KISS. And so these three are the most widely used debt tools in the VC funding. So we will be building out the convertible notes and safes in the future development of the product. But for now, we just have the equity funding built into the cap table. And what else will the financial model do for you? We're going to have several KPIs, key performance indicators. So as your company grows, it is very crucial for you to have a dashboard that tells you at a given point in time where exactly the company is going, in terms of your funds, in terms of your customer acquisition, in terms of your customer retention, in terms of your gross margins, in terms of your cash burn. So we look into several key indicators to give you a gauge, a dashboard, and help you focus on what matters at a given point. And finally, our model, our goal is to help founders with no financial background to give you some predictive analysis. So let's say the founder is going for a Series A funding. So as a non-finance guy, we want to be able to equip you to negotiate the terms with the VCs. VCs do 20 or 100 deals a month. And so they know ins and outs. They know what kind of founders knowledge they come with. And so they have all the tricks in the book to negotiate. It is the founders that don't have enough tools to negotiate. So our tool is to give you enough analysis and data to be able to negotiate favorably on your side. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide here. So Professor Peter covers some of these basic concepts in the financial innovation course. So I am not going to go too deep into it, but these are just some of the terms you need to be familiar with. And let's go through one by one. Pre-money. So let's say you as a founder go to a VC for funding today. So the VC, the first thing he's going to do is look at your balance sheet, look at your pitch deck, and then he's going to come up with a valuation based on his own metrics. And let's say he puts a valuation of $1 million on your company. And your company already has 1 million shares between, just for simplicity, two founders. Just two founders, 50%, and there's 1 million shares, so 500,000 shares each. So the VC, let's say, valuates your company at $1 million. So that is the pre-money. That is what your company is worth before the VC puts his money into the deal. So post-money is after the VC puts his money. So now the 1 million, and let's say the VC is giving you $500,000. So 1 plus the 500,000. So post-money will be 1.5 million. And the other thing you need to know is employee options or restricted options. They use the terms interchangeably. So these options, obviously for most startups, you don't have money to pay salaries. So most of the time, the initial employees do not get a salary, but what they get is employee options. And now these employee options are restricted options. You create a pool and you give these options from that pool. As you hire more people, you pull out the shares from this pool and you distribute it to them. Now you have to be careful. You don't want to just give employees options and the employee just leaves in 1 year and sells all his options. So you want to be able to build some vesting schedule into that. And the industry standard is usually 4 years of vesting. So the guy can't just walk out. So he only can vest 10% in the first year, 30% in the next, and the 30% in the next, and so on. Now, you also have stock options and preferred stock options, and most people try to confuse the two. They're very different. Stock options and preferred stock options are usually given to investors. And stock options differ from employee options in price. Employee options will be the same value as the share of the price on the day of giving out the options. Stock options, on the other hand, you are telling the person receiving stock options that they can get the stock at a certain price in the future. So if your company really grows and becomes highly valued, the guy who has a stock option can still buy a stock, let's say at $1, even though the market value is $10. So that's the difference between stock options and employee options. So these are the next is the three different debt instruments we talked about: convertible notes, SAFE, and KISS. And this varies slightly in the definition and also the terms. And I will not spend too much time going into it. I already mentioned what they are briefly. So let's just move on from that. And then obviously you also have warrants, which again can be confusing, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to go too deep into this. And next slide, Hira. So for those of you who are not familiar with income statement, this is an example of an income statement that Professor Peter uses in his course. So the ones in bold, black are the main items, and the rest of them can vary depending on the company you have, whether you're a product-based, whether you're a SaaS company, Whether you're a marketplace company or e-commerce, these things can vary. So our model, the good thing about our model is it doesn't matter what kind of company you are. You just answer those questions and it dynamically builds the corresponding income statement that fits your company. And you'll see that in the demo. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but if you want to spend a few seconds, you can look at the column headings in bold, the market size. As a startup, you always want to know what your market size is for your product or service. And then what percent of that market size you think you can capture. And after that, obviously the finances, which is your sales, your revenue, your operating expenses, and your net profit. And from that, you compute the free cash flow. And from free cash flow, you get to know what your cash burn is and what your funding requirements are from time to time. Okay, next slide. And this is the cap table again from Peter's course. And as you can see, we only have equity funding in this table. We do not have the convertible notes. We do not have safes, nor do we have any other kind of instruments. But in reality, it's a lot more complex than what you see over here. So on the left-hand side, as you can see, is the founder round where there's only founders and nobody else. And then as you go to the right, you will have Series A, Series B, and Series C. And as you go from round to round, you can notice the one in blue is the employee options. You keep giving more employee options as your company grows. So we are going to automate all of this for you by just asking you a few questions and take the complexity out of your thinking completely. And that is the goal of this product. So I have a question from Nizar. How do you determine the founder round? The founder round is basically, now again, there's some definitions that will overlap. Okay, some people call it pre-seed, some people call it founder round, some people call it bootstrap round. Basically, it's your very first round. It is what you as founders put together as initial capital. That is what a founders round is defined in this cap table. So if two founders put together 225,000, that'll be your founders round initial investment. And then how do you create how many shares? That is an arbitrary number. You can create 2 billion, you can create 2 million. It's up to you. Any other questions? All right, next slide. Okay, so this is where this tool is going to be really helpful for founders, because we are going to help you with a lot of AI in terms of thinking about your finances when you go for negotiating with the investors. So these are some of the things these are some of the pitfalls that most new founders can fall into if you go for funding without proper knowledge of these concepts. So one of the few pitfalls most founders fall into is option pool shuffling. So investors use this concept to dilute the founder's shares before they invest the money. So let's say your company is worth $1 million as of today, and for simplicity, there's just two founders. Each of them own $500,000 each, and there's 1 million shares. So if the investor comes in and says, hey, I see your company grow, I want you to add 20% more shares for employee options. And he's going to make you do that before he invests his money. So in other words, he's diluting the founder's share from 50% to 40%, because 20% is going to employee options. And on that valuation, he's then going to put his money. So his money is not diluted. So you have to be careful about the founder's money being diluted. And you need to understand that concept. And then also the vesting schedule, like I already mentioned, you have to be very careful when you give out employee options. you have to make sure you have a vesting schedule built into the cap table. So you know at a given point of time how many employee options are used up. And sometimes if the employee options are not used up, you can take it back. If an employee leaves after the first year, he only got 10% vested, you can take back the 90% and put it back in the pool. By doing that at any given point, the founder's dilution varies. And so you need to know how much your percent ownership is at any given point of time. And that's what this does. And the next one is 409A valuation. Now, this is very expensive. Let's say your company grows and you see a clear runway all the way to series A, B, and C. You're just rocking it. At some point, you will need to get a 409A valuation, because without this valuation, nobody's going to look at your company for series A and B rounds. And this is very expensive. It runs into tens of thousands of dollars. And so this is another tool that we plan to introduce in a much later stage. And so the next one, we've gone through these. And the last one, let me talk about that for just a little bit. Liquidation preference. So this comes into play, like you guys know, most startups do not succeed. For every startup that succeeds, there's about 7 or 8 that fail. And some fail in the very initial stages, some fail in series A, and some fail in series B. So when the company does fail, what is the recourse that you have? And that's where the liquidation preference comes into play. And you need to be very well aware of where you stand just in case you get to that point. You still need to be able to get something out of your company. After all, you invested so much time and money. And so by having some good knowledge about this will help you prevent you from getting into a pitfall where you come out losing everything. It's a little complicated, so I won't go too much into detail, but it basically peels out the complexities for you. So let's say as a founder, you invested 100,000. In the next round, an investor came and gave you convertible notes. In the next round, another investor came and gave you a convertible note. In the next round, some guy came and gave you equity shares. And in the next round, somebody gave you some warrants. So now you have so many stacks of different debts that you took. Now, who gets preference over who? And how do you unpack all of that? That is where liquidation preference comes into play. And our tool is going to model that for you to kind of let you know where you stand based on what scenarios are taking place. Next slide here. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, I think I can come to that one question later about warrants. And Neha asked about, for the top 10 pitches, is it important to have the financial model complete? The financial model is always a plus point if you have it complete. And the investors and anybody looking at your pitch know, for a very early stage company, the financial model is just projections. It means nothing. But still, having some projections and having a model is always going to help, because they can then have a view about where your company can possibly be if it succeeds. And they usually have their own way of scoring the valuation of any startup company. All right, and the next tool that we have built, or we're going to build into this model, is the KPIs. And this is going to be very useful for startups. This will be your dashboard on your computer that you get to see every day. And you'll have daily metrics, you'll have weekly metrics, and you'll obviously have yearly metrics as well. And then a lot of times people have like 50 different metrics, and this confuses people by having too many metrics. So we can do just the focus metrics where the real value is being driven by your business model. And those value metrics are different for different business models, and we will provide those value metrics for you. And then we can customize metrics department-wise, so each department can excel by following those metrics. And we'll also give you various charts and progress charts, so it kind of motivates you, and at any given point in time, lets you know where your company is. Next slide. So this is a basic flow diagram. So you, as a founder, will answer the questions, and we take those inputs. The inputs go into the financial model, and the output is going to be a link that you can download in the form of an Excel sheet. And the Excel sheet is going to have the executive summary, which all VCs will want from a founder when you go for your presentation. An income statement, obviously they need to know your finances. How much money did you put in so far? How did you spend it? And so numbers don't lie. And so VCs can tell based on the way you're spending your money, whether you're doing it wisely or not. And then cap table. And cap table, again, you cannot not have a cap table and go to a VC. Because if he wants to be a part of your company, he needs to know what your cap table looks like and how he is going to be a part of that cap table. And KPIs we just discussed, and predictive analytics is where we want to have an edge. And by providing the founders all kinds of analytics about the business, whether they need to go for funding, at what rates to go for funding, and also what your cash burn is, and things of that nature. And finally, funding round modeling is going to give you everything you need before you go for a negotiation. So you can actually plug in numbers, act like a VC and plug in numbers, and then see how you come out after the funding. And you can play out different scenarios. And so when you go to the VC for the actual interview, you already kind of know, depending on the numbers the VC is throwing at you or the terms he's throwing at you, you kind of already know, the terms that are favorable to you. Any questions so far? Okay, I have a few questions here. Yeah, profit and loss and income statement, is it the same? Yes, it is. That's by Karen. And Narendra, where to get market size info from? A good question. That is something the founders need to do. You need to research your market. You need to know your competition. You need to know the similar products or services that are in the market. And eventually down the line, when we build the full package, we don't want to be just a financial model. We want to be able to provide a complete package. And since Narendra asked for it, giving you the basic market research was one of the things we wanted to package in that tool. So we wanted to build a business model for you. We want to do the market research for you. We want to do the pitch deck for you very professionally, making sure it is exactly what the VCs are looking for. And then we want to have the financial model and the cap table, which the VCs will be all over. And then finally, we want to help you with some legal documentation. And the last and final, we want to be able to give you connections to angel investors and VCs. So that's the complete package when we finally put it together. All right, next slide. Okay, so we are down to showcasing what we have so far. Before we do that, just keep in mind, we don't have the complete model built out yet. We have most of the income statement built, and the cap table and all the other KPIs I was talking about, we haven't built it yet. But you should be able to get an idea of where we are heading with this demo that you're going to see. Hira, if you want to bring up the model. Is Kate online?
Yeah, so we have selected Kath Emerald from the current LISA cohort participants to be the validating founder for this universal financial model. So Kate, so basically what's going to happen next 15-20 minutes is Choudary will walk you through the process, and basically from your side you will be providing the data. It doesn't need to be the accurate data, but based to your knowledge, just get him the information, and we go through from step-by-step process to the stage where we can submit the information, and the models will be available right out of that.
Thanks, Hira. Hi, Choudary.
All right, Choudary, do you wanna bring the browser directly on you, and you can share that?
Okay. Did you give me the sharing option?
Yeah, you should be able to share. I'll stop share here.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll ask you the questions, and Kate, just go ahead and you can start answering. So what's the company name?
Life of Emerald. L-I-F-E. Oh. Life, like life of pi.
Oh yeah, Life MD.
Can I type it? Is it okay? Life of Emerald. Yes.
Got you. Okay, hold on. For simplicity, just let's. I'm having trouble. I apologize. Which year is it started?
2020.
2020. All right. And is the business model a product or service?
It is a service.
Service. Just for some relevance here, right now we only have service, product, and hybrid, but in the future, our goal is to have 9 options. And I believe every business under the sun can fall into these 9 models. And so we're going to have those 9 models under the drop down. For now, we just have the 3, but in the future, we will have 9 models, and doesn't matter what business you do, it'll all fit into one of those models. Okay, and what is the market size? In other words, it can be the number of stores. If it's a product, how many of the pieces of product you're going to sell? And if it's a service, how many subscriptions?
Yeah, well, I saw your hybrid option. Could I say that I do one-on-one consultation with CEOs, plus we have 30-day happiness program that is downloadable for passive income. So could I qualify for hybrid?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do hybrid. Okay, market size. So how many? So if you're going after the CEOs, in other words, your clients are going to be companies, right?
Companies, and the product is the market size is 500,000 people.
Yeah, we're going to simplify that too. But for now, okay, 500,000. And out of the 500,000, what is your market penetration in the next 5 years? We're going to do this model for 5 years for simplicity, but if you want, you can select all the way up to 15 years. So we're going to have projections for 5 years, but if you want, we can do 10. But for simplicity, let's do a smaller number. So what is your expectation for market penetration in the next 5 years?
Could I ask you what market penetration is?
Okay, so out of these 500,000, how many of them do you think you're going to capture in the next 5 years?
Oh, okay, okay. So then, could we put the 500,000 people and the expected market penetration and increase the market size by 5 million people?
500, okay, 5 million. So you want to get 10% market penetration. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so you get 500,000 market penetration out of the 5 million. So it already shows you in this over here. And now, obviously, in reality, you're not going to get the market penetration all in the first year. You're going to get it over the next 5 years, right? And in
Right.
reality, you're not going to get 2% each year. You're going to get maybe 0% the first year, maybe 2% in the second year, 4% in the fourth year. So it can either be even, which is 2% the next 5 years, adding up to 10%, or we even give you the option of staggered, where you can select what percent of that 10% are you going to achieve in each of the next 5 years. Do you follow what I mean by that?
Yeah, could we do stagger for now?
Okay, so do you want to do 2% each year?
Yeah.
So if you do 2% first year, you're going to get 100,000 out of the 500,000 in your first year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do 2% again, so you get the next 100,000 in the next year, and so on. And if you finally get your 500,000 at the end of 5 years. But like I said, you can play with these numbers. I mean, let's say you change your mind, your company is not growing as fast as you expected it to. You can go back and change these numbers, and the projections will change automatically.
Sure.
Okay, so go to the next. And now this is where your revenue comes from. So what is the price you're going to charge for your service or product?
$555 per download.
Okay, now in reality, it's not a simple one-line item, right? So your revenue comes from different things. So we give you this plus sign where you can add, because some companies have multiple revenue streams. Even within subscriptions, they have different subscriptions, premium, base model, you know, and different staggered subscription models, right? And so we give you the option to add, and it'll just total all of that for you at the end. So you can put all your revenue streams over here. So if you don't want the next, you know, if you just have one revenue stream, which is a subscription and only one kind of subscription for $555, then that's all you have is revenue.
It is a one-time download, so not yet a subscription, and I plan to make this a subscription component out of it later.
Yeah, so you can come back and add, like I said, you can add your revenue streams. Let's say you become a really famous business and you have pharmaceuticals and other people who want to advertise on your platform, you get some advertising revenue, and so you can add that over here.
Definitely.
Okay, so that is your unit price. Now, here's the next question. Does the unit price increase every year, or are you going to keep it constant?
I'm going to keep this program constant and create different programs with expert scholars, PhD level holders, and create different products in the alters industry.
So here's the thing. If you say no, okay, that is what your revenue is each year. You're getting 100,000 each year, and you're charging those guys 555, and so that is what your revenue is in each year. But now let's say you want to increase prices because you're getting famous, and you know, your product is becoming popular, and there's a lot of demand and willingness to pay, and you want to increase it. And then so let's say you can even do it staggered. And see, your price increases accordingly, and you can even decrease your price if you want. Let's say, you know, let's say you're losing, your retention rate is going down, and so you decide to give discounts, you can do that too.
Makes sense.
Okay. And so now your revenue have to recalculate because you're increasing the price, and see your revenue increased to $6 million from $3 million just by doing some price increases. So it lets you play around. So let's say you have revenue target, and then you can, obviously price is one place where you get your revenue from. So you go and mess around with how much to increase to meet your target, but then you don't want to increase too much. You don't want to lose business, right? So this tool lets you play around with that fine balance and decide what the optimum price is.
Yeah,
okay.
Makes sense.
You're good so far? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the cost of providing your service. So obviously you're going to have some fixed costs and you're going to have variable costs. So here again, you just add. You can keep adding. Okay, I mean, we'll take out the defaults. We have to do some validation. Right now it says the same thing. We're going to make sure we have better validation. But yeah, so you can divide your costs into fixed and variable and add all of them over here. So you're going to have some office costs, obviously, rent, overhead, right? Professional fees. So you're going to add all of them over here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to add, you can give it a name and start adding your costs?
So rent, we can add rent.
And this is monthly. So what is a rent?
You mean monthly from now on, or what I've paid already?
I mean, for this demo purposes, let's just do what the existing rent is.
Oh, $700.
$700. Oops. Okay. And then do you have other costs you want to add?
Yeah, the living cost, the food and things. So that's another $700 per month.
I'm sorry, what is that again?
Food.
Food. Okay. What else?
Transportation. $100. And the marketing per month, $500.
Okay.
And sales, I want to hire a sales agent. Can I add that here now?
Okay.
Say $2,000. And virtual assistant.
Okay.
$2,000.
All right.
And could I add one more thing? This person wants to help me enter a US market professionally, and that costs $30,000 US per 2 months, so $15,000 US.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm just giving it a name, but you get the idea, right? So,
yeah.
And obviously, this is not okay. Now you got to keep in mind because you're giving your monthly expenses. This is not a recurring expense, is it?
So $15,000 is a recurring monthly expense.
Okay. Okay, so that is your monthly cost. And now here again, do your costs increase every year? Because a lot of the fixed costs, whether due to inflation or whatever reason, you're going to have costs increase over time. So we'll look here again, this is a guesstimate. Are you going to have a steady increase every year, or are you going to, are you going to have a certain percent? Like if you're into raw materials and trying to build a product, those materials increase every year, usually based on inflation and other factors. And so you can put all of that over here. For simplicity.
We can say no for now.
Okay. So these are your expenses each year, and that's your total cost. Okay, so that's your revenue, that's your cost, and that's your gross profit. So at the end of 5 years, you're going to be having profits of $3.5 million. This is just a very simple calculation, and from here this is where we stop because we're still programming the rest of it. From here, we will also get your free cash flow. We will get your cash burn. We'll get your net present value, right? And then we are also going to be able to compute what your final valuation of the company is according to the VC in different scenarios. Because some VCs want 15% return, some VCs want 20% return. So depending on the different scenarios, we'll come up with a valuation for your company. So you have an idea of what your company is worth when you go for negotiating in front of a VC. So
Yeah,
we'll do all the scenario modeling for you. We wish we could get the rest of it, but we did this in a very short amount of time. So hopefully by the end of this cohort, definitely by the next cohort, this is going to be a completely built up product, hopefully.
That makes sense. Thanks, Choudary.
So any questions? I know you just answered a few questions, but I'm sure you see some numbers missing from your end. So is there anything you think we can do better or add?
I think you guys are doing a great job. Not that I know right now, I don't know. Can I get access to this?
Yes, we'll give you access. We'll give the rest of you access too. If you see the link on the top in the web browser, myshortcut.net/Lisa.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any questions, guys? Let me see the chat. Okay, I tried following.
So Charlie, when you click next, can you click next? What happens there after?
Yeah, next.
Oh, you still have, yeah, we still had, I forgot the operating expenses. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we still have the operating expenses. This is where your fixed costs will come.
Yeah.
I know you said something of 30,000, right? Your fixed costs.
That's 2 months cost, 2 months.
And then this set of questions is to help build out your cap table. So right now you're a pre-seed or founder round, right?
Right.
You haven't had any funding so far?
Not yet.
Okay. So how many founders? You just one, right? And let's say you answer 2, it'll let you add more founders, the name and the percent breakdown. But in your case, you're just one founder, so we're going to do Kate, 100%. And how much did you invest initially?
Is that including rent, food, everything?
You can just give if you don't have to give the exact accurate number, you can give.
I've invested 11,000 so far. Yeah, we can do that. 15,000 US dollars.
And how many shares to create? As of now, you own the full company, 100%. So there's a guide. You can do 10 times your initial investment or 100 times. So if your investment is really small, maybe 100 times will create 1.5 million shares. That's an arbitrary number. It's not going to affect anything. Okay, just for ease of managing later down the line, if you become a really big company, um, you can always create more shares at that point. So employee options, right now you don't have any employees, or do you have employees?
I don't have employee. I get support. Yeah, I don't pay.
But you're going to be hiring employees, right?
Yes.
So you want to pay them in equity. You don't want to pay them cash because you don't want to burn your money as a founder. You want to give them employee options instead. And that's how most startup companies do. If they give money, they give very little, and almost 80% of the pay is in employee options.
Mhm.
And so that's how many shares you allocate, and that's your share price right now. It's 1 cent. And then when you click next, in how many years do you expect to go for your funding? In your case, you want to go right now, right? In 1 year?
Yes.
And what is the multiple to use? So this question is because a lot of VCs, they use different methods. The most common method that even a professor taught in the course is a multiple of revenue. But then in reality, some companies use sales, some companies use EBITDA. And so there's several other kinds. For now, let's say revenue, okay? Now, what is the probability of success of your company? Obviously, if I ask you, you're going to say 100%, right? Because you believe in your company. But the VCs generally give a rating for a company after they go through your pitch deck, your finance and everything. They kind of have a score. Different VCs do different calculations. Like Berkham score is one, decision tree analysis is one, multiple comparison is one. So they use different strategies. And using those strategies, they come up with the probability that your company is going to go successful to the next round. So let's say that percent is 70%. Okay, and the next one is most VCs expect at least 15% return. But some VCs, if your company is highly risky, they may want more. The more risk, the more rate they want. Okay, so let's say we'll do 15% on yours. And what is the existing cash balance you have on hand?
I mean, how much money do I have right now?
Yeah, because you still need to spend to keep going, right? So how much money do you have? Only
$500.
500. And what's the capital you require?
When? By when?
How much funding are you asking for?
$1 million US.
And here again, they'll ask you, do you want to add more? Every VC will ask you, depending on how fast they think your company is growing, they will ask you to allot some shares for the employees to help fund the growing company. So here, it just depends on what the VC will ask, but let's just do 5% for now. So when you submit, this is your final output. Like I said, this is not a complete output because we haven't done finished programming, but this is how your income statement will look. Like in the slide, I showed you an example income statement, right? It'll look exactly like that, fully built out. So we don't have that right now. This is not the right output, but you click on cap table. This is what your cap table will look like. And this is not your numbers, Kate, because like I said, we haven't programmed that yet. These are not your numbers, but this is what it'll look like with your numbers as a final output. And the executive summary, every VC wants to know and be able to have a 1 to 2 page executive summary of your company. So a brief snapshot of what your company is. Every executive, every VC will want to see this. So these three are the most important things any VC is going to ask besides your pitch deck.
executive summary I'm creating by April 12th.
Got you. Any questions, guys, so far?
We have one chat.
Yeah, let's take a couple of questions from Q&A chat window, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah, we will be getting a secure connection for the website. Umesh used to have the certificate, and he lost the certificate just 2 days before this demo, but he is going to get a secure certificate so that website can be easily open and accessible.
Yeah, and we'll be hosting on with the proper domain on Google Cloud, or it's any of the cloud, and then we'll have another URL for that.
And Narendra wants to know, will it be fully developed and at what cost? Right now, we're going to give it, as we develop all the different features of the product, it will be free for the cohort from LEAD. And we haven't decided the future course yet. So we will let you know. And we still need to do a lot of validation in the form too. So, what happens if a person enters characters instead of numbers, or what happens if the person enters, more than 20%, and 20% is the market penetration you initially selected. So there's a lot of validation we need to do to avoid user errors. And we're still working on that as well.
Choudary, when will the cap table be finished?
Yeah, hopefully by the Umesh will be the one to answer that. I'm hoping in the next 1 to 2 months.
Yeah, we are trying to develop all the features within 1 or 2 months, like in May sometime.
Yeah, and also from the cohort participants, right, our C2 will be ending on end of the May. That's where you need to equip with the financial model as well. So by the time, I think we can hope to make this wrap up and make it available through the different channels, right? And if you need a one-on-one follow-up, we'll make our team available to support you on there too.
Cool.
Yeah, so thank you again. I think we can wrap up. I truly appreciate it was just like a similar kind of the startup idea, right? So we started seeing the challenge from the cohort participants requirements, and then teams got together. Now we have this very interesting tool. I haven't seen this kind of the end-to-end taking question and building model. We have seen like templatized version of the model. If you look at even the Google right now, you'll see like plenty of them. So this is what I see the unique way of getting a true user experience. And by our next version 2 release, we will have this end-to-end functioning the solution available to all of you. And I thank you, Choudary and Umesh, for taking this leap, and also Sandeep and other folks who are working behind the scenes from the day one. And I truly appreciate everyone for joining us today, and we'll look forward to connecting you again soon. Thank you all.